You're live.
You're live.
No, you're live. They can't hear you, really? Fine. Then they can't hear me.
We're the only ones. Who's
Actually,
the only
okay.
one? Wait,
So,
Ryan turned himself off?
oh yeah, I turned myself off. I literally muted myself and talked out loud. So, welcome everybody. This is Don't Worry Wednesday, the show.
Don't
where
worry,
we talk
Wednesday.
About, sorry, this is Don't Fret Friday.
Don't fret Friday.
Wow, guys. Let's just start over. This is an entirely different show. Welcome to Don't Fret Friday. This is a stream where we talk about worries to help one another. We are not professionals or professional help, but we'll try to give our helpful advice. Any questions or worries? Feel free to drop them in the chat on the BSS website or anonymously at dww@bss.studio. https://bss.studio/forum/index.php ? It continues on. Otherwise, you can direct message us on Discord for any anonymous post or on any Don't Worry Wednesday question you have to Static P number 4545 Princess number 7101 Guys, I am not reading. This is not from text. I'm gonna hit this up on the spot. Okay, so yeah. Thanks for covering our bases there, Princess. That's literally all we have to say. You guys know what the show is about. It's about you. It's about helping you guys out in your lives, and actually helping us out in ours. Because a lot of times we find that just doing this show in general keeps us up to date in ourselves. Are we practicing virtues? Are we doing the right things?
Are we practicing social distancing? Yes.
Yes. That's why I'm not in your living room right now giving you a seminar. I'm all the way over here. If this social distancing wasn't going on right now, I'd love to be in your living room, but
your owls are not practicing social distancing. They are not.
They actually can't contract the disease because they're owls.
They are failing.
It's not a bianimalistic disease. Owls can't contract corona.
Well, good.
Correct me, anybody who knows what they're talking about. But my speculation is owls don't contract corona, so they're allowed to touch and be close. And plus, the government
they're wearing your headphones.
If you're a family, yeah. By the way, these are hot. No, these are live. There's actually audio coming into the owl's ears. Yep, it's pretty cute. But yeah, they're tuning in on the episode. They got their mastering beautiful headphones on. They're like $200, and they're showcasing their talent of their. Owls have an incredible hearing, and they can rotate their head like 360 degrees
all the way around. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's more than I
want to do that.
Me too.
I can't. I tried once.
That's as far as I can get.
I went to the chiropractor afterwards.
Wow. Oof. Good idea, I guess. So where you go after you try to be an owl.
That's where you
tried to be an owl once. Then I went to the chiropractor. They told me that was bad.
They said, "What did you do?"
Well, I jumped out of a tree and spread my hands out. It didn't work. Also, I tried to rotate my head around 360 degrees. Both of them happened at the same time, and when I hit the ground, things just didn't feel right anymore. So I figured I'd come and see you. You're not an owl.
I was not prepared. What are you talking about, Jesse? Oh, no bongo or guitar. Yeah, that's right. I got a guitar over there. It's just off screen. It's Don't Fret Friday, though, so there's no guitars allowed.
Oh, there's no frets allowed. That's brilliant.
No fretting.
The fact that you just said that is
Jeff
brilliant.
said it. Jeff set it up in the chat. You didn't see it, or Jeff
you were busy. Okay,
you were busy reading all of the crazy stuff, and you were reading off everything, and I was busy distracting you. And
Clark
so that's
was busy brilliant, Jeff. That is absolutely brilliant. No frets allowed on Don't Fret Friday.
That's
Nice.
right.
Though that thing right there, that doesn't have frets, so
Yeah.
it's okay. Those are called bridges, and we don't have bridge burning batter day, so because that's not a day.
It's not a day.
There's no bun day, bend day,
No
Rye
bun day
day.
Monday. My God.
batter day, bun day. There's no day that starts with B, except for my birthday. You guys, maybe I should just leave. All right, we're gonna do Don't Fret Friday now. So let's get on with this.
Tef, you are right. Pancakes taste good.
Pancakes. All right. So I'm going to go through the list of names that we have cataloged. If anybody else wants to add a topic today, feel free to just put one in the chat.
Man.
I'm sure we'll pick it up. Princess probably will. She's amazing like that.
She is.
But yeah, let's get into this. We've got Sumner Kagan, John Doe, Man Left Behind, Eric Bodine, Caffrey, Mark Anthony, Akil, and Princess. Akil, we actually have 3 for Akil, which is actually very impressive.
Yeah.
Akil, thank you so much for your contributions. We really appreciate them. We know there's more on the way, but let's start with Akil. It looks like. Again, if anyone's in here, like Mark Anthony or whatever, feel free to say something.
The word something. We want to see the word something.
Yeah, you have to use the word something in your sentence. Any type of sentence, but it has to have something in it. So we've got 3. Yours isn't time sensitive. Well, that's fair. You're kind of the only person we have. So we've got 3 of them. We've got Walking Away, Last Quillless, and Fast Friendship.
That's great. Tara just typed message retracted.
Message retracted as a statement.
Oh, that's great.
Brilliant. Well played. Here. This is also what it says in the bottom bar. Say something. ...
Say something.
That's an inappropriate use of the ellipses, but I'll allow it.
You know all about the inappropriate uses of ellipses after
I use them all the time inappropriately. So I know very well how they work.
I edited that.
I put them in all the wrong places.
I had to learn the proper use of the ellipses. I had to learn the proper use of the semicolon. That was
I know the proper use of ellipses, and they still refuse to use it like it's supposed to be.
What's the proper use of this?
Is it a grave? Oh, that's a tilde. There's actually, yeah, it's supposed to be tilde. It's supposed to be put above something, but they put it on your keyboard. So we use it to like spice up a sentence.
Yeah.
But it's not really, it's a punctuation. And then there's grave, which is the same key, but without the shift held down, which also is not used in sentences, but it is a accent mark. Much like the tilde is an accent mark. It goes above an N in Spanish. Yeah, we have some of those on our keyboards. It doesn't make sense, but we've got them.
What's the proper use of this?
Because you can't throw them into the word. That is a, what do they call that? It's not a bracket. It's a
I don't even know what that is.
I forget what it's called.
What is even this thing?
It's a type of bracket.
It's not the letter I.
No.
Which is this? It's not that.
That's a pipe.
A pipe.
Yeah, it's a pipe. It's more so used in coding than it is in it's mathematical also. But when you put 2 next to each other like that in coding, Jesse can tell you more about it, but it's useful. And it actually is used in sentences, but not in any that you normally read.
Wow.
I can't remember how it's used. Yeah.
Man,
anyways,
all this education, look at how smart we are.
Let's go on with
Akil's how smart I'm
question. So we're gonna do the first one. Walking Away.
All right.
Is the title of this one.
All right.
I think actually said quillless.
Oh, they want Quillless?
Quillless, and yeah,
You're not
Unless I'm
allowed.
wrong.
Princess posted that one. Princess posted Quillless in the chat, so
Oh,
that's
did
the one
she?
we're doing.
Okay, well,
Akil,
there
will
you
you
go.
correct me if I'm wrong?
Princess is in charge.
No, she's fine. You're fine. We got 3 of them. I'm sure you're right. Okay, we'll do Quillless. So this one is from a Killjoy. Dude, you're hilarious. How long has your name been a Killjoy?
It's been that way for a while. You haven't
Has
noticed that
it?
yet? Yeah.
A Killjoy. That's
Yeah.
brilliant, dude.
It's
You're so
cool
funny.
fun.
All right. So this is from Akil, who is going by a Killjoy on the forums. And this the topic title is Last Quill dash Quillless. And Princess, go for it.
Penna is Portuguese. It's Portuguese for a feather. I also apologize for pronouncing that wrong. Penna is also a formal word for a pen in my language. Quill, my self-proclaimed nickname, was inspired by both it and the rhyme it had with my first name. Penna also sounded feminine, so my younger self decided not to use it directly. I thought that I could hold on to the name Quill, but lately I realized that I shouldn't. I will not be writing professionally. I will do it when I can. I am putting writing on an indefinite hiatus. I need to find more pieces of myself other than this guy who writes sometimes. I guess I felt ordinary, plain. I guess I felt like an ordinary Joe. No offense. I feel like my significance I just feel like my significance is on low nowadays. I'm cannon fodder. I guess I should try new things. From Last Quill Keel.
All right. Thank you,
A
Princess.
Killjoy.
A Killjoy. Yeah, thanks, Princess. So this is a interesting one, of course. This is one that I don't think we've really gotten, maybe ever. So I like that. And there's a couple of things I'd like to talk about. Of course, I know some people that are not considered writers, but they are by the masses. Like people would be like, oh yeah, he's a well-known writer, he's a phenomenal writer, and then they would never call themselves writers. They're like, that's I just wrote a book. Like that's not like I wrote one. It's not my job, you know. And so it's kind of interesting because you can go with that talent and still use it, even if you're not considering yourself to go that route in life anymore, or try new things. I think that's really important too. So anyways, I wish you the best. And I like the etymology, using penna, Portuguese for feather, quill being the feather.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that is really cool. I like how you came up with that name, and it works really well with using writer. But yeah, if you're giving it up, then that's all right too. Anyways, I'm going to give it over to Joe and see what he's got to say about the topic.
Well, first of all, thank you for the topic, and second of all, I don't ever feel like you're gonna offend me with the whole ordinary Joe thing. No.
I think he knew that it wouldn't offend you.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, I see what he said it.
I appreciate it. No. And I've never been offended by Sloppy Joe either.
Ooh, sloppy joes are good.
They are
You like
good.
Sloppy Joe?
I like Sloppy Joes. They're Sloppy Joe,
Sloppy
Sloppy Joe.
Joe, sloppy
Yeah.
Joe. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Man,
But anyway,
I love Sloppy Joes.
but they got all these names for Joe because Joe's a very common name. That's okay.
I'm drinking a cup of Joe right now.
Yeah, we got that. Yeah, we come up with double cup of Joe. They got the Morning Joe show on whatever TV station they got and all that stuff. Whatever. It's crazy. Anyway, here, I enjoy your writing, Akil. I have to tell you that. Like Ryan was saying, whatever you decide to do, it's totally your prerogative. I mean, I'm all about finding more pieces of ourselves. I'm all about, discovering more about ourselves. And if taking a break from writing is what needs to happen in order to do that, that's totally fine. You do have a definite talent in writing. I will say that. Having read some of your stuff, you've got a great ability there. So feel free to come back to it whenever you want. One of the things I wanted to address on here is the whole the ordinary thing that you were talking about here. You're not offending me, Tev.
I don't think you're so he was intending to offend all the Joes beyond the human realm.
Oh, I see. Yeah, exactly, Tara. Everyone's ordinary. And here's the interesting thing that I've learned about magnificent, amazing things. When you're in the middle of doing them, it feels ordinary. It does. Ryan, probably the only exception to this rule is probably Ryan when he was working on It's Not Like I Like You. That probably didn't feel ordinary for him. That probably felt like this is going to be like the biggest, most amazing thing in a long time. Right, Ryan?
No.
It felt pretty ordinary.
Well, I mean, I liked it. I was like, this is pretty good. It has a possibility of taking off, but so does everything else.
Yeah, but you were just
I was really
music.
into it. But yeah.
But you were making music like you do all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, because it's just what you do. And so it feels ordinary. And like when I'm working on albums and when I was working on the Criminal Idol book, even though, I mean, that has potential to be a pretty big deal. But on the day-to-day basis, it just feels like ordinary work, right? So that's one of the things it's kind of beautiful, because as we're working, it's just kind of relaxed, calm, feels pretty plain, feels pretty ordinary, feels just fine. And then it's not us that makes something great. It's the world and the community and the people that take hold of it and that enjoy it. They're the ones who make something great. The only reason that the iPhone is great is because a whole bunch of people like it. Personally, I don't think the iPhone's all that great, but a lot of people do. But you know what? When they were making it, when the people were developing the iPhone, it was their normal day-to-day job. And I'm sure on some days it felt ordinary. Like, I got to make a whole bunch of phone calls. I got to put together some specs. I got to deal with my boss. I got to do all this other stuff, right? And it's just like normal day-to-day thing where, but in essence, what they were doing is they were creating something that was going to change the world, right? Scientists do that all the time. And it's their job. It's day to day. You think of like surgeons and stuff like that, like they save people's lives all the time. But you know what? They go to work. It's like an ordinary day. So when we get into anything, just because something feels ordinary doesn't necessarily mean that it's the wrong thing to be doing. Just because something doesn't feel exciting like at a given moment doesn't mean it's something that you shouldn't be doing. So just, I just wanted to address that thought, because sometimes I've been in the excuse me. I've been caught in the trap of thinking, oh my gosh, this just feels like normal and kind of boring. Like I gotta go do something else, when actually I need to finish what I'm doing. And then when it's done, then when I share it with other people, it can become something great. The first project Ryan and I worked on together took forever. And it was hard. And, but it was like, okay, I get up, I go to work at the car wash. I was working at a car wash at the time. Right. So I get up, go work at the car wash, come back, living in a little townhouse, go down in the basement, work on the album for however many hours, get on Skype with Ryan, You know, it's like every day, day in and day out. You know, it's like, okay, go to work, come back, work on the album, talk to Ryan, break pencils on Skype, go to work, come back, work on the album, break pencils on Skype, talk to Ryan. You know, like all the stuff that it was just every day, every day, every day, right? And you know, it gets mundane, and it just this was dragging on forever. And then finally, it released.
Yep.
We released it out there, and you know, and we released it anonymously, like we didn't put our names on it, which was kind of a unique thing, right? But it didn't stay secret very long. Like there were people who knew, and then they told other people, and they told other people, and they told other people, and so people would find us, and they'd be like, "Man, you worked on this, man, track 4. Oh my gosh, that one was so amazing."
You were like, which one was 4? Which one was 4? I don't know. I didn't put it together. Yeah,
Like,
me neither. They shuffled the order around on us. Yeah, I don't know what it is. All right, yeah, we'll just go with it.
But like people would find us and talk about how impactful it was for them, and that was really really cool, you know. But getting to that point was a whole bunch of ordinary, mundane, kind of stressful sometimes, you know, just a long drawn out process. It was just ordinary day-to-day living. And that produced something that made a difference to other people. It's what it is, really. I mean, it just I don't remember who it was, and I always misquote it, but somebody said, you know, opportunity is missed by so many people because it shows up in overalls and looks like work. It's true. The greatest opportunities we have, they look like work. They might look like just an ordinary day of work. But man, you might be creating something that's going to change the lives of a lot of people. So be mindful of that as you go, as you move forward in whatever you decide to do, Akil. So I've talked for a while. Ryan, take it away.
Sure. Akil follows up with, I guess I was trying to find myself. My father is a big bookworm, so I wanted something he would appreciate, like artists. I guess I wanted to find my style. Writing comes from my life, so I want to experience life again before I got stressed by trying to write. Very well said. The ideal will come, and I will love my words again, and I'll probably cringe at the piece later in the future, but that's okay because I'll grow. I'll just say that. Yeah. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. I was gonna say, you know, it's so funny. I was talking briefly about this before I passed it on to Joe, but I've got some like great examples of people that have done just that. If you look at, well, now you probably wouldn't look at this, but there's someone called Cardinal Ratzinger, also known as Pope Benedict. He is a theologian, right? Theologian. So he studies God, right? And he studies Old Testament, he studies New Testament, he studies everything, and tries to relate it back to God, tries to understand God and the world that he's made, right? That's a theologian. And so, you know, theology being theo, God, ology, theologian being someone who does theology, right? So he's a theologian first. And he goes out and he experiences the world, right? He learns from the world around him. He reads a lot of literature. He looks really in depth to a lot of different things. And then he became the Pope. And he had time to write. But with a little bit amount of time he did have, he spent it writing. And what did he write about? He wrote about the same stuff he was before. It's all just theology. He writes books on theology. He's like, well, okay, what does the world need? The world needs more information on this. I have that sort of information because I've studied it, but it's not out in the open. So let me just write a book about it. So he writes a book about the things he's discovered in his theology, right? Things that people probably have known in the past, but he's bringing it back into the light now because people have long forgotten it because it's not written down anywhere, or it's written in crazy, weird other literature that's hard to read and hard to find. So he's like, you know, I'm going to bring it all back and I'm going to write this book Um, and so he starts writing, right? And he puts the book out, and it like the people who buy it are other theologians, but they're like, this is so good. And those theologians then talk about it to like other people because they're speakers. And then those other people who are in their audience are like, that sounds really good. So I'll buy it. And so then now this person, this theologian, this Pope, that's not his job, isn't to write. His job isn't a writer. His job is to study God, you know? And I really like what now his book is everywhere. And he's got lots of books everywhere. He's been putting out books for decades, and people love his stuff.
It's deep.
Yes. It's incredibly
extremely deep.
It's nothing surface level. You open up a book and you read like first chapter and you're like, whoa, this is crazy. Like it gets really deep, really well explained, brilliant. Right. And I think you have that same brilliant mind, to be very honest, Keel. You are really introspective, you think deeply, and you put your thoughts down on the paper. And I think that's super important. And so you're talking about here, you want to go out into the world, experience it more so that you have more to write about. That's brilliant, dude. That's absolutely right on. Because honestly, like the more you experience life, the more you have to offer people into their lives, right? I mean, that's why we're here on Don't Worry Wednesday or Don't Fret Friday right now. It's because we went out into life. We experienced some stuff. Joe's experienced different stuff than I have. And you guys have experienced different stuff than we have. And so that's why we urge you guys to comment in the chat as you guys do. And a lot of times you guys have really great points, really great things to say. So it's awesome that you want to go out into the world, experience it more. And instead of saying writing is my job, living life is my job, whatever that might entail. Writing is an additional part of my life, but it's where I put the outcome of all of my life, where I can take the rest of my experiences, throw it into words into a book, and then get that book out into other people's hands. And I think that's brilliant. So I encourage you, like I said, now that Pope is no longer a Pope, because, well, he's really old.
He's a Pope Emeritus.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So he's, he's back to being Cardinal Ratzinger, right? Is he Cardinal still?
No, he's Pope Emeritus.
He's a Pope Emeritus?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So once he has had multiple names.
This is only the second time in the history of the church that it's happened where Pope hasn't gone all the way till their death.
Right, because usually they go until their death, but because of his state and just how things worked out, it was better for him not to.
Right.
And it made sense, and I'm glad he did.
Yeah, but his title is Pope Emeritus.
Pope Emeritus. Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. So yeah, anyhow, so he's a theologian first. What's he do? He goes out, he experiences life. He turns it back into, how do I define God? How do I explain the world we're in through God's eyes? How can we understand more about God through this life that I've lived, through this life that other people have lived, and through the word that God has spoken down to us and things like that, right? So his job is theologian first, and then just by nature of being a theologian, he wants to share it, and so he writes it, right? And so I kind of see, if you take that route instead, you say, I'm a writer, just like he's a writer. I'm a writer, but I'm not a writer first. Writing is the outcome of my previous efforts. Writing is the outcome of my growth and understanding of the world so that I can share it with others. It's the creation that is the result of my life. And then that ends up being a product in itself, which continues to give, which is brilliant. So I support it, man. I think that's a brilliant idea. there are so many things you learn. Like you can take up any job in the world, as long as it's a job you've never done before. You will learn all sorts of things you never thought you would learn, and it will be interesting if you make it interesting. You can become a plumber, and you will learn a lot about plumbing and a lot about other parts of life. You will learn so much that you never thought you'd expect you'd learn just because you picked plumbing. Or you could be a doctor, or you could be a hairdresser, or you could be a wig designer. You
Mm.
could be a, I don't know, an inspector like Joe.
That dominates a
inspect
martial arts class full of children.
that dominates a martial arts class full of children. Yes,
And
you could
actually, I
dominate a
don't.
martial arts. Yeah, that's right. Some of the kids can knock him over.
I get my rear end handed to me sometimes. Not
Yeah.
lately, because we're all in our basements and living rooms and houses and stuff.
Mhm. So, anyways, that's all I've got to say. I know it wasn't much, but I just want to encourage you because I think that it's a good idea. Honestly, if you're not, you can always go back to being a writer as your job, but I think that writing can be the outcome of a life experienced.
Mm.
And then that writing can be far more powerful than it would be if you were just a writer. I mean, you think about this. Harry Potter, great story, right?
Harry Potter, Harry Potter,
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, Harry Potter. That's me, Harry Potter.
With some virtues. How many people in the world can say Harry Potter made me a better person? There aren't very many.
I don't know about Harry Potter, but Twilight.
Yeah, Twilight made me a better person. No, so like you have these phenomenal writings, right? They're out there. They're like, wow, that's good. It's an interesting story. I'm really engaged, right? But a lot of times it doesn't make us a better person, right? It makes us entertained. Sometimes there can be good influences in those things. But those are writings of great quality, but they aren't often great value. Great value comes from wisdom, right? When you can share your experiences in a story that help to make someone's life better. For that purpose, I think that's a completely different style of writing that lends itself to far more meaning and purpose and change. There are people who have had their life get better because of Harry Potter, I'm sure. They've learned like, oh wow, Harry Potter did this. That's a good virtue. I'm gonna follow that. I'm gonna try to do that. I'm gonna try to be like that. I'm trying to be like Harry Potter. I want to be a hero. Right? There's probably something like that, right? And that's good. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to find out what you can and enjoy life, experience life and enjoy it and love it. And then your writings will come out all the better. Whatever you write, it's going to come out better. But anyways, yeah. Joe, do you have anything to follow up with?
Yeah, I love what you were talking about, Ryan, because that is so important. Like the best writings come from, a writer who has lived lives and noticed how life is, and so they can really tap into that and explain things, and it's a beautiful thing. One of the things, as you move forward on your journey, Akil, I will probably sound like a broken record here, but I just want to just stress the importance of your prayer life. As you move forward, it's interesting because as I grew up, I was taught that basically our entire religion was the text of the Bible, right? Like that was it. Like you need to read the Bible and read the Bible a lot. Now it's a good thing to read the Bible. Yeah, absolutely. However, I've learned also now as I get older that just as important, if not more, is a strong prayer life, because that attunes you with your creator. And there's a plan for you, Akil. You were created with a purpose. And as you're trying to figure that out, to be in touch with the one that created that purpose, it just makes sense. Because then you will begin to understand more and more the things that will fulfill you, all the things that you were designed to do. I have a hard time thinking that writing isn't some part of that, at least to some degree, because you do have such a great skill in writing. I have to applaud you with that. However, what you're doing might just be exactly what you need right now. It's interesting. Our lives are meant to be lived, like Ryan was talking about. We have this life. Experience it. I like what you were saying. I guess I should try new things. That's great to try new things. Do it. Experience more than you have. And yeah, you'll be able to, it probably will give you even more things to write about, like Ryan was talking about. And not only that, but it will be an enrichment to you. So, but as you do that, it's good to maintain virtuous living. It's good to maintain, because as you experience new things, it's easy to get pulled away and start to I always call it, I let myself, slide a little bit one way or another. I'm like, okay, that's all right. I'm just going to do this one thing one time and then that's going to be okay. But every time I slide, I always slide further than I expected I was going to, or than I meant to do.
It's slick.
It is. Yes. Yes, exactly. So it's like, and then I got to get myself back on track. And sometimes it's hard to do. Right. So if there's one thing I've learned from Ryan, it's the art of pursuing virtue. He is so good at it and inspiring. Like, you guys hear him talk here, but to actually get to know the guy in real life, it's exactly what he talks about. Because he lives that. He lives that pursuit of virtue. And it really does shine everywhere he goes. And anywhere we go, we went to this coffee shop, and just the way that we talked to the guy and the way that Ryan interacted as he bought me my tea, and because he was nice like that.
He had a really funny thing to say. I forget what it was, but you'll probably remember.
What? Who?
When we went to a coffee shop. Oh, go on.
We went to
that your story.
the one in Houghton Lake there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we were sitting there, and just because of who Ryan is, it radiates in a room. And it's a really, really cool thing to see. So as you live, stay in tune with your virtues. And I'm telling you, you will feel happier, you'll feel more fulfilled, and you'll have fun along the way. So I don't know. That's what I had to add.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to add on top of that either. But you did say, I hope I didn't end up. Yes, I just hope I don't end up procrastinating. Taking things easy is good, but my mind can drift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I want to experience life. I want to understand. Yeah, absolutely. Get out there, do whatever, take any opportunities, and just figure out, how things go. I'm not bashing on Harry Potter. Harry Potter's a brilliant story, right? She has figured out how to make all these characters, right? All the characters are different. She's only able to do that because she's experienced a lot of different people through her life, right? So the more you experience, the more you're able and capable of creating legitimate characters that you can relate to and feel are real. And I think that's important, right? Yeah. I think that that's a great idea, Keel, and I wish you the very best. I think that wherever you go, like Joe said, just carry a good attitude, a good virtuous presence about you, and I think that you'll go far no matter what you do. Um, I enjoy the video that you made. I got to kind of see you and kind of your, how do you say that, your form, if you will, and I think you're very delightful. You're engaging just because you have an engaging presence. um when you speak, you mean to say something, and I think that travels far. um you encounter people along your way that when they speak, it's almost like they intend it to fall on deaf ears. And you don't have that way about you, which I appreciate. So um believe in yourself, man, because we do. We love you, and you impress us. So
Mhm.
impress yourself upon the world, and they will be impressed by you for sure. So go out there, experience life, have fun, enjoy it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess we can go on to the next topic.
We can, and you're hosting, so
Joe,
you get to tell us when.
Joe, are you the host?
No,
Well, then don't tell me when I'm the host.
I'm
You're not
telling.
the
I'm
host of
telling
the
you.
most. Like you're the host. You got to do this. Like, excuse me, I'm the
Yeah,
host. I get to
you,
say what I get to do. All
that's
right.
right. You do.
Yeah. And I'm gonna
That's
do
right.
what you said, but not because you said it. But because I'm better than you.
No, because the host is like the head. The host is like the head of the program, right?
Is it?
The guest is the neck that turns the head.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Man, I got a good neck on me right now. My neck is so beautiful.
Look at that neck right there.
Oh man, look at that neck. Oh man, that would be okay. I'm just imagining people going around and judging other people's necks now instead of their faces. Like, wow, she's got a really pretty face, and be like, wow, look at the neck on that woman. Look at the neck on that woman. That is a neck. And people will be like, oh, what is it, larger than normal? Is it like taller? Like, no, it's just a beautiful neck.
Yeah. Have you
Wow.
ever seen a more beautiful neck?
Excuse me, ma'am, could you remove your scarf? Yeah, it's getting in the way of your neck, your beautiful neck. Like, I hate to see it. I hate to see the scarf in the way of the neck. Could you please
want to
remove?
talk about
That is some.
You want to talk about embracing the awkward?
Yeah.
That would do it right there. That would be it.
You go to like a guy, you're just like, hey man, and be like, hey, what's up? I just want to let you know you have an absolutely beautiful neck.
Wow.
Thank you. Are you talking about my neck? Yeah. Thank you.
I'm gonna try that
Yeah.
when someone's really mad at me at an inspection or something. They're gonna be coming out. What are you doing here? Blah 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 blah. I'll be like, man, you have the most beautiful neck, especially with all those veins popping out of it right now.
You have the most beautiful neck. It's so sincerely weird. I love it.
Oh my.
Wow. Yeah, you just come up to you all angry and you're just like, wow, your neck is absolutely beautiful. You mocking me? No.
No.
Have you looked in
seen
the mirror?
neck?
Your neck is just
Man.
absolutely perfect.
I'll tell you, you go back in and look in the mirror. I will take pictures of your house for you. You go in and look at your neck in the mirror.
Like your neck is like perfectly symmetrical and everything. I love it. Your Adam's apple falls right in the middle.
Yeah.
I can see the way it goes up and down is perfectly as it should. As you're screaming at me.
Yes, you got a
Um,
vein sticking. Right? You got that.
You do have
vein.
one vein that's not symmetrical, but
It's
it
like,
doesn't really matter because I know it's only because you're angry.
Right. Yeah.
If you weren't angry and you just smiled, man, your neck would just illuminate gorgeous beauty upon the world. And honestly, I wouldn't shame away from staring, because it's my right as a human being to stare at the beauty that is your neck. And they'd be like, yeah, you got to go. I'm going to call the cops.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, wouldn't be the first time. Yeah, it would be
All
the first
kinds of
time
people
about
call-
necks, but it
All
would be.
kinds of people call the cops on me about necks.
Yeah. Yeah, a smile and a good neck will go places. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna move on to. I haven't gotten word from anybody in the chat that they're here, other than Princess. But we're
Yep.
gonna obviously Lay. We've got Lays as well. I'm gonna read some names off. If you're here, sweet. Let me know. Feel free to drop a whoop in the chat. You can spell it however you want. And yeah, so we've got Sumner Kagan, John Doe, Man Left Behind, Eric Bodine, Caffrey, Mark Anthony, Princess, and Lay. Yes, as long as the police show up with their sandwiches. Absolutely, Lay. Just like in Stay Calm.
Chapter 11.
Chapter 11. Whoop whoop. Whoop whoop. Whoop whoop. Whoop 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 whoop. Yeah, that was perfect, Lay. You got it. Princess didn't drop one. She didn't give a whoop whoop. But I know that she's here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go to Princess, and then we're gonna go Lay. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right.
This is
Princess,
gonna be cool. Princess.
Yeah,
is
Princess, are
read
you
her
gonna
own
read this?
topic.
Maybe it's not even from her. So no, actually it would be great to have her read it because she knows how she wrote it. So therefore she knows where to put the emphases. Whatever. Princess, are you down? Yep. Cool. That's
Princess is
confirmation.
down.
Always
So-
down.
Awesome. This one,
Yeah, that's what we like to hear.
it's titled A Friend Who Wants to Move. Take it away.
A dear friend of mine is packing and aiming to move across the world, and they are worried about being able to move. Some part of it is that the coronavirus has pushed it back. But the biggest hurdle is that they have an emotionally unstable and manipulating friend/roommate who leeches off them, and they are scared to prepare for their move. They have started dropping hints to their roommate, not mentioning a date, but that roommate is already talking badly about my friend, as if they are abandoning their roommate. Some things you should know is that the apartment expenses aren't an issue for the roommate. They could afford it. But it's a sudden change from paying 10% of the rent to 100%. The roommate is acting like she's going to die, forced to have responsibility, even though they make more money than my friend. And the roommate is a type of person who would choose to starve instead of cleaning a dish to eat with, then complain of hunger until someone else does the dishes. And worst of all, I feel my friend is being verbally abused and that they're afraid to do anything about it. They are picked on for small things, and my friend doesn't speak up because it'll lead to more arguments and abuse. Because it'll lead to more backlash on more things I do wrong, and probably I should die. Like, why would I even bother? And people just don't get it a lot of the time. I'm afraid of the backlash and their tendencies, and it affects me, and I'm scared about it. It's a huge weight/toll, and I have to deal with it on a I've got to deal with their constant depressive talk about wanting to die, and increasing that more than it already is for 6 months. I'm not sure I could bear that. But what they really seem to need is some tough love and words, for themselves and for their friend. They know that they're immensely loved, and hearing about it doesn't encourage them to think about the situation or to solve the issue properly. Would you have some of those types of words that could help my friend? From Princess.
That was a Don't Fret Friday first right there. A DFFF.
How?
The writer of the topic read the topic.
Oh, yes, you're right. That's the first
Yeah.
time that's ever happened.
Yes. Thank you, Princess.
Yeah. So I got distracted at the end there because my phone started buzzing me with an alert about more flooding and stuff in my area.
Ooh, yeah.
I should be fine though. But yeah, that's. I mean, I think I know who this is, but it's all right, regardless. And honestly, some of the stuff that their roommate is going through, I can relate to personally. And I kind of know a little bit about how to solve that. But solving the roommate could help solve the problem. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely quite a few things to talk about. So you're trying to help your friend What are you're trying to figure out, how do I help my friend in this scenario? What can I do to help them? And so, we've talked about helping friends before on this show. A lot of times it's just kind of being there to show them the way. But when it comes to something that you are not doing, like moving across the country, um, there's probably a different road to take to help them, um, both maybe verbally and action wise. So I'm interested in seeing what Joe has to offer.
Yeah, from what I'm gathering from the post. Now I'm not sure. I don't. I mean, I might have an inkling of who that is. I really don't know for sure. So, from the situation that sounds like is going on here, so so there's a person that wants to move. The roommate is scared if they move, doesn't want them to move because, the impact on the rent and all that jazz, right? So, so there's that, and plus with all that, it seems to be like the person who wants to move is abused by the roommate who doesn't want them to move. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So all right. It sounds to me like, I mean, just from the standpoint of what it sounds like, I think that the best thing that could happen in this situation is that this person moves as soon as possible. I know it's tough with coronavirus. It's tough with all the stuff going on and everything. And, but it sounds like the path to making this situation better for both parties is for this person to move. Because what sounds like has happened is your friend who wants to move, they've kind of become a crutch for their roommate a little bit. And basically it's hurting both of them, because it hurts your friend who wants to move because of the verbal abuse and the emotional abuse and everything and all the stress that's entailed with that, right? And it hurts the person who's doing all that stuff because they're behaving poorly, and that always hurts us. When we behave poorly, it hurts us inside because we're doing things that are not right. And so we just sink into darkness more and more as a result of that, right? Like Ryan has said so succinctly, to be happy is to pursue virtue. That's what makes us happy inside. That's why it's important to pursue virtue. When you do the opposite, it makes us miserable. So when we behave badly, when we abuse others and we take advantage of them and we do all these kinds of different things like that, we feel worse about ourselves. We feel worse about our lives. It just leads to this downward spiral, and it's hard. And it just makes us feel worse about everything. And so for this person to move out and break that connection, even if it doesn't sever it completely, but it just kind of gets the whole, the we live together aspect out of it, out of the way, I think that could go a long way into fixing it. Now, as far as the stress of not being able to pay the rent, I mean, sounds to me like that's not really an issue. As you said in your post, that the roommate could afford it and it wouldn't be a problem. Now, that doesn't mean it's not a fearful proposition for them. However, one of the things I've learned is that, most of the things that we think are such a big deal turn out to not be as big a deal as we think they are. And we survive. We live through them. You know, we find a way, we get by, we do what we need to do. You know, we figure out a way to get through whatever we're going through. And that's one of the beautiful things about us humans. And every single one of us has this power, but that power of creativity. We always think of creativity in terms of art and music and, you know, stuff like that, and writing, and those are definitely creative things. But being creative is also, you know, hey, I only have this amount of money. I've got to buy food. I've got to pay this bill. I got to pay this bill. I got to figure out how to get by on this amount of money. How am I going to do that? That's creativity too. When a mom who has 6 kids is at Walmart and she's trying to figure out, you know, all the things she needs to get, that's creative. That's creativity in action right there. So we can be creative in every aspect of our life, and this one is no different. And probably your friend moving out would be the spark that would help so many things, because it would help your friend, because it would be them doing the thing they want to do, and they want to move forward with their lives, and this is a step forward for them, and that's great. That's what they need to do. That's what they should do. The roommate would be helped because they would be kind of forced into that position of being creative. The crutch would get taken away. They're, you know, the person that they're kind of mistreating would be gone. And so then they wouldn't have that person to mistreat anymore. And then their life would improve because they're not mistreating this person anymore. And it would force them into being creative. So that makes our minds work. It gets our minds focused on something other than ourselves and our problems. And it gets us focused on a solution. Like, we got to figure this out and solve it. Boom. You know, we're up against the wall now, man. We got to like do something. And that can be a very, very powerful thing. I've noticed it happen with my wife and I. It's the same type of deal when we get there are times when we live when we're debt free, and there are times that we have debt. And right now we've got debt. We've got a boatload of medical expenses from the past few years, right, that we're paying off. And it's amazing to me how, you know, it's for a while we're able to live with it and deal with it and all that kind of stuff. But then after a while, it's just like, okay, we're tired of this. We're getting rid of it. Boom. And then like everything, like all forms of action take place. And it's like, poof, we're blowing this thing away and getting rid of it. And it happens relatively fast once we make that decision. So this moving out could be the decision point. It could be that important decision point of saying, okay, now it's time to get into action. I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have, and not only that, I've got this extra room now. What can I do with this extra room? Maybe they can find another roommate. Who knows? You know, maybe they could take the extra room and do something else with it. If they can afford to pay the whole thing without another roommate, that would be pretty cool to have that extra space. Maybe they'd have to move into a different place. I did that numerous times. I moved, man, so many. It seemed like I was moving every year for a while. Like my lease would be up, I'd move into a new place. My lease would be up, I'd move into a new place. It's just like moving, move. And it was crazy.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was part of it.
You helped.
Yeah.
Or at least help me pack.
Yeah, I don't think it's very many times, but helped a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. It seemed to me like a whole bunch of people were helping me. So I was grateful for everything. So
I moved like every year of my life, so I was used to it.
yeah, you did.
I at one point I had moved more times in my life than I have lived years.
Mm-hmm.
One time I moved 5 times in 1 year.
Oh my
Or 2
gosh.
years. 5 times in 2 years.
Wow.
That was when my house burned down. Anyways, sorry. Continue.
Yep. Well, at any rate, I think it would be the best thing for this to happen for both people. And for your friend who's a little apprehensive about what it might do to their roommate, if they feel it might hurt them, or if they feel afraid of what it might bring. You know, it took me a long time to get to the point where I understood this. But my job isn't to make other people's lives bearable for them, I guess. You know, like it's not my job to make somebody else happy. It's not. And you would think that I'm married. You would think, as far as Hollywood said, hey, part of my job is to make my wife happy. It's not. They say happy wife, happy life. That is absolutely true. But it's not my job to make her happy. I can't do that. She has to decide to be happy. I can do all kinds of things that I think are going to make her happy, and she can still be miserable. Vice versa, same thing. Like, she can do all kinds of things for me that she thinks are going to make me happy, and I can still be miserable. It's my choice how I feel about something. And so your friend, it's not your friend's job to make the roommate happy. Happiness is an inside job. And maybe the move would spark that into action and make that more of a real thing too. So I'm just spitballing. I mean, it sounds like Ryan probably knows a little bit more about the situation. So he'll probably have a little bit more insight and some better stuff to say. So Ryan, take
Thanks,
it
Joe.
away.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. You know, I remember being in the position where it's like, I don't want to do dishes, right? And I would just let them sit there and pile up. But you know, the truth is, like, once I was put in a position where no one was doing the dishes and eventually I just had to do them, I did them. And you know what? That made me a better person.
Hmm.
I started to realize, like, wow, I can do the dishes. Like, and it made me feel good. It made me feel like I'm actually doing something around the house. It made me feel like I'm not a slob, right? Because I was forced to do them. I lived with my brother who would refuse to do the dishes. And I would be the one that ended up doing the dishes. We only had, I think, 4 plates and 4 bowls, so it didn't take long before someone had to do something. So I ended up doing the dishes back then, and you know, it made me feel good. Even though I didn't want to do them, I still didn't want to do them when I was doing them. At the end of doing them, I always felt like, yeah, this is good. So one of the best things, like Joe was saying, the best thing possible is if this person moves away, because then their roommate will finally start to have responsibility and own up to it and feel good about it. I know the situation that's going on, and that person is obviously depressed and they don't like themselves and they're a jerk and so on and so forth. That's because they don't respect themselves. We talked about this so many times before. The way to get them to respect themselves is literally just to leave them so they have to own up to their own responsibilities for once. And then they'll start to respect themselves because they'll see what they can do. So moving on past that topic, you said, but what they really need is some tough love and words. They know they are immensely loved, and hearing about it doesn't encourage them to think about it or solve the issue properly. Would you have some of those types of words that could help my friend? So what Princess is looking for is some words that they can tell their friend, not their friend's friend, or tell their friend to tell their friend, but Princess is looking for specific words that she can use on her friend to encourage her to move. Because I think everybody knows that it's at this point, like, yeah, you just need to get out of there. All the signs point that direction. Even hopefully to the person that is worried about moving, they can understand, like, yeah, I really need to move for this person. Obviously, you can. I think the best thing you can do. So there's 2 degrees of tough love, and I think that tough love is probably the best thing you can do at this point, because if they're not responding to, like, they're gonna be okay, don't worry about it, you know, you need to do you need to, you know, and you're kind of being like kind and gentle, and it's not working, right? You need to kind of give a little push. So there's some some ways to do that. One is to say, first of all, I love you. So I'm not trying to be mean, but here's the thing. You need to leave for them and for yourself. You are not responsible for them. If they do something when you're away, that's not on you. That's them being stupid. Period. Don't worry about them. They have their own life to live. If you worry about them, that means they don't have to worry about themselves, which means they're never going to get out of this. So leave. You have to. Like, literally, you should have left 2 years ago. That's on you, and that's your fault for not doing so. You knew you should have. But you didn't because you were too worried. Which makes sense. It's because you love them and you have a huge, beautiful heart. But you have to stop letting them eat away at that beautiful heart. And just go. You need to move. So you can be a little bit more aggressive, right? You can be buddy, as in, like, you know what's right, and I know what's right. Like, when you're buddy, I mean, like, you're saying, like, let's be real with each other. You know the answer. You just got to do it, man.
Mhm.
You just got to do it. That's what I mean by buddy, because that's the move that I use on my brother. That's the move my brother uses on me. That's the move that Joe would use on me, and I'd use with Joe.
Your brother used that on me recently.
Yeah, that's the move my brother uses with Joe. That's the move that we use with each other at BSS. Is we know what we need to do.
Mhm.
We just got to do it.
Yeah.
It's
surrounded by love. We know that we love each other. We know that
Mhm.
we respect each other. All that, that's deep
Yeah.
down and included in there. So
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. You just say, look, I love you. I respect you. But here's the thing. You've got to leave. You know it. Because that's what's going to help them. And if they go off and do something stupid, that's even more on them and even less on you, because you weren't there to influence it to happen. You weren't their crutch, right? You weren't there. Like, let them be stupid, because that's what's going to get them to stop hating themselves. Because then they have to take responsibility, and then they can finally start liking themselves because they've taken responsibility. Like, right? So sometimes you got to have that attitude, okay? And it's not necessarily easy, especially the first time you do it, but it's not too hard either. I would say get on voice call, because then your attitude will transfer. Because otherwise, if you're just typing it out, they can read it however they want.
yes.
And I think in this sort of scenario, it's better to have a real voice, a presence. And then if that's not working, here's one other thing. Like, tough love oftentimes can come from like a parent, right? And so they'll like, well, if you don't do it, then I'm taking this away from you, or I'm grounding you, right? There's repercussions, right? When someone has something over you, right, and they give you tough love, there's a sense of repercussions, or I'm not thinking of the word. Scold. They can scold you or whatever, but they can fire you up to doing something by giving you a negative. And I can't personally think of anything you can do there. There's not really much you can take away or do, because they're your friend, and you don't really hold anything over them. You don't lord anything over them. They don't have anything that you're necessarily doing for them, that you can take away or you can take back, like any physical objects or whatever. But if you think of one, you could use that to your advantage. Sometimes people need more than just a push. Sometimes they need something to chase, or something to run away from. Now, this person, if they're a scared personality that's they're it's kind of interesting. People are animals, and so they're like animals. We've got that fight or flight kind of inside of us as human beings.
Mhm.
and sometimes people run away from things, and that's what inspires them. And so when you give them a negative, they'll try to do everything they can to avoid it. That's why they're not moving, right? That's why they're worried about moving, is because they're so worried about their friend who's not really their friend. But well, they are a friend to them, but they're not a friend back, I should say. You know, because this person is always worried about things, that's what fuels them, right? That's what fuels their decisions. That's how they make their decisions, based on what are they worried about the most. So if you can throw something in there that will make them worried, that will cause them to run away in the right direction, right? That's also another way of playing this sort of tough love. It's kind of like a game of cat and mouse. You throw a cat in the room to get the mouse to find the cheese. Otherwise, they'll never find it, because they don't know which direction to run in. They can just smell it, and it's everywhere. So you throw a cat in the room, and they run around, and now they're all freaking out, and now they find the cheese. It's kind of a weird but example, but you get what I'm saying. So in one sense, you could say, I don't think you'd want to take it this far, but say like, like, I don't know, it's hard. I don't know what you can find, but if you can find something that could worry them more, and say, you have to do this, or I'll do this, or I'll take away this, in a loving manner, like, hey, I love you, and I'm really trying to get you to do this. So here's the thing, like, I'm gonna stop talking to you if you haven't made up your mind in the next 2 months to leave. And then I won't talk to you for like a whole month, and then I'll come back and talk to you. But that's what you get. And that's because I love you, and I really need you to make this decision for you.
Mhm.
Right. That's what my mom tried to pull on me, right? When she said, no, you have to go back to college, or else I'll kick you out of the house.
Mm.
Right.
So you chose to leave the house.
And so I chose to leave the house, and that's fine. My mother is an awesome mom, because whenever she put down anything that was like, whenever she had a threat, she always followed up with it. Like, she was very strict in that manner. Like, you don't tell somebody you're going to do something if they like, if you do that, I will spank you, right? And then they do it and you don't spank them. She realized that's the worst thing you could possibly do.
Mm.
If you put a threat out there, you have to do it, even though you don't want to anyways. Like, I don't want to spank my child. I only said it so they wouldn't do it, and now they did it. Now I have to stink and spank them. Like, that's more effort than I wanted to put in, and now I'm mad at them. That's annoying. Like, I'm not actually that mad at them, because it wasn't really a big deal. I was just telling them not to, and they, whatever. I have to go over there, pick them up, I am over there, my leg, and spank them, and make me look like the bad guy, because right? But because you follow up, it makes your words mean something. It makes you respected. It makes people look up to you. And similarly, if your words aren't cutting through to help this person make the right decision, then sometimes you have to up your respect. And I don't mean to say violence gets respect. I'm not trying to say be a forceful person to everybody in the chat. Like, you need to be that bully or whatever. That is absolutely not what I'm talking about. Is fact very opposite, because all of this is love oriented, right? It's centered on the aspect of, I love you and I need to help you and I want you to move forward with your life. But with the way things are going right now, that's not happening unless I give you some tough love. So we're talking about tough love. We're not talking about being bully. We're not talking about being that guy who's a Chad. We're talking about some guy who's just like a jerk or a bully or a, whatever. So yeah, anyways, I had to throw that disclaimer out there, because I wouldn't want anybody to go in that direction, because that is not a healthy direction for anybody. But yeah, tough love is an interesting thing to maneuver. So if there's anything you can think of that could possibly go in that direction, I would take it. A repercussion, or I can't think of the right word, but right now, but that's okay. Like if you do this, then this is the consequence. Consequence, that's not a bad word. Consequence for action. And it could be something like, look, you have to decide. You have to say, I am going to do it, period, no matter what, in the next like 2 weeks to me, or I'm going to block you or something, whatever, for a week. Now it doesn't have to be that. It's just an idea. But if you can find anything that you can use as a physical or timely or emotional or whatever category that can be a consequence of love to encourage them, that you feel is right, that you feel is okay, that'd be awesome. I can't tell you what that is. I can't think of anything really. What I gave as a suggestion probably isn't a very good suggestion, because it's not really. But yeah, mainly it's hopefully a lot of it you don't have to go that far, and a lot of it will be done in the talk. So I would just whip up a voice call with them and kind of, to your own words, use what I talked about in what I said. And if you want, you can always tell me to do it, and you know that I will, because you know I love this person too, and I'm about aching to give them a talk to. So,
Well, you just did.
well, but if they're not here,
They can watch this.
yeah,
They can watch
could.
it.
Yeah, they can watch it.
I wrote a poem.
Okay, yeah, on to you.
I wrote a poem for this situation. It's called The Sky. It says, the sky is blue, the grass is green. Get off your butt and move out.
Can you say it one more time? That was beautiful. It just rhymed so well.
The sky is blue, the grass is green. Get off your butt and move out. This is why I'm not a lyricist.
I like it though. I like it. It's catchy.
You know, interestingly enough, the tough love.
Oh, please add please to the end of the sentence. It would rhyme. No, please. Just get out.
Just get out. Ryan's brother Kyle recently went through some of this toughness, you know, when I was going through a situation. And interestingly enough, here's the thing. I heard, you know how we always talk about we're not therapists or whatever, you know, we don't even pretend to be therapists. This person was actually an actor pretending to be a therapist on a show I was watching. And they had this line about, you know, when people come to them as therapists, they said, and I thought it was really, really interesting and probably quite truthful. He said, you know, people don't come to me as a therapist. Like, they don't come to me for me to give them advice. They come to me because they're trying to get permission to do what they want to do anyway.
That is quite true a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. So I was like,
that's human.
Ooh, that's profound, right? And so for you, because we always want to kind of wimp out. You know, we always want to feel like it's going to be okay. Like when we're faced with something, struggle. Now this could be a big deal. You know, this could be a big move for this person, and it can be scary in its own right. So there's probably a little bit of apprehension about the move itself, as well as the apprehension with the whole roommate situation and all that kind of stuff too, right? So it can be scary. And our natural response when we're looking at something scary is to retreat, right? We want to back away from it. We don't want to face it. We don't want to go for it and all that kind of stuff. Even though we know a better life is on the other side of that decision. We know it. But we're scared of, you know, whatever. It's a change. It's a big change, and we're scared of it. Ryan's brother Kyle said to me, you know, when I was dealing with this issue, and I was telling him, you know, like, okay, this is what I'm looking at. I can do this. You know, should I try and do this? You know, he's like, no, you know what you need to do. It's not easy. I'm sorry. And he said that. He said, I'm sorry. I know that's not what you want to hear. I'm sorry. And I know that it's hard, and I'm sorry. but there's no other option. And he just said it matter of factly, just like that. And because I value his opinion, I took that to heart. And so all of a sudden, in that moment, I mean, he was compassionate about it, but he was tough. He was like, there isn't any other option. I'm sorry. Those were the words that stuck with me the most when he said, I'm sorry, because I knew he meant it, but I knew he also didn't mean it. Like at the same time, he's like, sorry, not sorry. I mean, I'm sorry because I know you're going through, because this is causing you anguish. So I'm sorry for that, but I'm not sorry because this is the right thing to do and you need to do the right thing. Right. And I was like, okay. So, but when he said that, we said, I'm sorry, but you know what to do. You know, it's the right thing to do. There isn't any other option here. In that moment, the wimp out option, that door closed. And I was like, okay, it's no longer an option. I can't even give that thought time now. I have to live in this, the thing that I'm scared of, the thing that's hard, the thing that I know is right, but I'm afraid of because it's hard. I have to live in that reality because he just effectively closed that door.
Yeah, that's true. And then you're just like, okay, how do I make that work? All of a sudden, you're just like, your page's turned.
Yep. And so then everything else was just about how do I, just like Ryan said, how do I make it work? How do I do this? How do I figure this out? And then I had to use my creative faculties in order to do that. Right. But sometimes the best thing we can do is close a door or have a door close for us. Sometimes, like, there's a little book called Bradford, You're Fired, and it talks about the benefits of being fired sometimes, because like when that door closes, it opens up a new opportunity. People think the ending of a relationship is such a bad thing, and it can be quite painful, yes, but maybe it's exactly what needed to happen to open the door to some new part of life that you weren't even thinking would be available. Who knows? So at any rate, I think like what Ryan was saying is very, very valuable. Maybe there needs to be an ultimatum, maybe there needs to be something, but I think really, I mean, if you can just matter of factly be like, look, you know what the right thing to do is, you know it, I know it. The right thing to do here is move. You need to do it. Your life is not going to get any better until you do it. Simply put. And just matter of factly, I'm sorry because I know it's hard. I'm sorry that it's hard. But it's what needs to happen. And then on the other side of it, both of you know that on the other side is going to be a better life. It's definitely going to be more interesting. There's way more opportunity. There's way more, I mean, it's moving your life forward. And the longer you sit and wait, I mean, you get stagnant. Things are just going to get worse. It's just going to continue to get worse and continue to go downhill. So the sky is blue. The grass is green. Get off your butt and move out.
It's catchy.
It's catchy. Roses are gray. Violets are gray. The sky is gray. Ryan is gray. I'm colorblind. Leave. Nice. Nice. There
you go. Gray for you. Beautiful. So yeah,
that's what I got.
I'll join you in gray.
Hey, look at us,
guys. Welcome to the Gray Tone. Welcome to the Gray Room.
The Gray Room. where all
Yeah.
things are gray. Different.
Yes.
I almost
I'm
said
gray,
50 Shades of
dabu dee
Grey, and
dabu
I'm like, I couldn't.
So, anyways, thank you, Princess, for the topic. Maybe I'll give them a stern talking to, if they talk to me first. I'll say, "Whoa, that is creepy, dude. This is actually creepy."
Whoa.
Oh my
Oh my.
gosh! Oh my gosh! Cancel.
You can see
Just don't
my
save that. Would you
pineal
like to-
gland.
No.
Fun with camera settings. All right. There we go.
You look good
That's
as a
more better.
human.
I look good as a human.
I prefer that. I like your normal skin color. I'm glad we're not that color red all the time.
It would
Or
just
gray.
be normal.
Actually, with the intensity that was, you literally look great in my eyes right now because that was so different. But it's my eyes are starting to come to attunity and realize that you are not gray flesh.
I am not gray.
Yeah, you are not a gargoyle. So, yeah, thank you so much, Princess. We appreciate you. We love you, and we hope that that helps encourage you to figure out the best way to encourage them. With that, I think since Lay is still with us, let's do Lay's.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a boss.
Yeah. Appreciate all the poems in the chat. That was great. You guys are great. I like that they rhymed. Unlike Joe's.
Unlike mine. A poem does not have to rhyme.
A poem does not have to rhyme. It is so true. Lyrics don't either, especially if you are Japanese or Korean. I don't know what it is, but like whenever you hear an English song, a song written in English, like almost the end of every line rhymes with the previous, unless it's the starting starting phrase, right? If you listen to like most, if not all, K-pop or Japanese genre music, you're just gonna be like, that doesn't rhyme. That doesn't rhyme. That doesn't rhyme. Like through the entire thing, you're like, why are they ending with O and then ending with E and then ending with ah and then like that doesn't even rhyme. They don't care over there. They don't know about the rhyming thing. They think our language sounds good because we're just like, yeah, well, that's because we try to make it sound good. What are you guys doing with your lyrics? Literally, you cannot put any thought into them because maybe we put way too much. Honestly, I think I do.
Yeah.
Like I will have a sentence I will write out lyrically, and then I'll be like, okay, yeah, but it doesn't rhyme. So can I find a new word that will fit into the sentence and then reshape all the sentence so that it is stated in backwards order, but still gets the point across, but then at least it can end with a word that rhymes. Like that's what I had to do when I write lyrics, and it's a long process. So it would be easier if I just lived in Japan, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Now we have the alphabet brought to you by Tara. Thank you.
Almost. He replaced W with Q though. It's got two Q's in there.
A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V Q X Y Z.
Ha! I noticed.
Oh, sorry.
That's because I was saying it as
C,
the word.
D,
you never heard
E,
that's
F,
the word.
G, H,
it's the most
I,
amazing
J,
word I ever
K,
saw.
L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, Q, X, Y, Z. I am the best. Okay.
By far.
I am best. I alone am best.
Is.
All right. You want to do the topic? You want to do this?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, then you're interrupting. I'm just kidding.
What?
What?
Just kidding. I love you, Princess. Let's do this.
Man, Ryan,
So this
you're
comes from
mean.
Lay. It's called Judgment, and in parentheses it says, "I swear it's not as serious as it sounds," and then end parentheses.
Ooh, I like your avatar.
Yeah, Lay's
It's
had
cool.
that one for a long time. I really like it.
Really?
So, yeah. Without
Cool.
further ado, let's hear it. How's it go?
No pouting, princess. We love you.
I love you too.
Yeah.
So does life.
We love
Yeah.
Why do I feel like people who don't like repetition won't enjoy this post? I had this weird argument against myself in my head lately. It's pretty much entirely ethical, and it focuses on judgment. I came up with lots of different arguments for and against, and I couldn't find anything that would one-to-one set my mind on either side. So I'm reaching out here for more arguments. So the question I have is, what type of judging someone is good and which one is wrong? I feel like there's a thin line. Of course, there's a difference of judging someone in the solitude of your mind, judging someone in front of them, and judging someone in front of others. And well, judging someone behind their backs. But we'll ignore this one for now.
Hmm.
In the confines of judging someone in our minds, I believe in the long shot it doesn't matter much. It's hard for me to think up of a sinister scenario here. Even judging someone in our heads because someone said something unpleasant rumors about them is not a bad thing as long as we don't take these rumors to other people. It can be good though, after all. Judging if people are good or bad is how I identify which people I should avoid. Example, toxic people, and which I should stick around.
Mhm.
If we're talking about judging people in front of others, it's a hard topic for me ethically, mainly because of a quote I can't remember properly. It said something along the lines of, "A true friendship praises you in front of people and criticizes you when you two are alone." It gave me the light on the topic that if you say negative things about someone, as long as someone else gets to hear it, it's a negative thing, as you're essentially bad mouthing them, even if you're saying the truth. And if you give them positive judgment, as long as it's the truth, it can't be a bad thing. Here we enter the most interesting and heated topic for me, judging someone in front of themselves alone. Just you and that person. Some people wish not to be judged at all. Some people wish for only constructive criticism. Some people don't mind being judged as long as it's worded properly. And then there are those who don't mind being judged at all. So, is the border entirely up to who are we judging? Is it about how? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic of judgment. Always yours, Leo. A religious PS. I know that in the end, God will be the one who decides what's good or bad. So I don't worry about this. I'm just having a brainstorm over this topic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was great. Thanks for reading that, Princess.
Very
And yeah,
insightful, Lay.
yeah. Is it Leo or is it Leo? I'm sure it's Leo. But it would be interesting if it was Leo. I've never met a Leo. But if it was Greek, it would probably be Leo instead of Leo. And then Roman would be Leo, not Leo. Something like that, and I'm probably wrong. So, yeah, no, this is actually a really wonderful topic. I'm excited to talk about it. I had a really interesting experience one time when I was driving and contemplating something along these lines about judging people. It is a little bit different. I like how this is more so like, as you said in your PS, that God will be the one that decides what's good or bad. But how do we interact? What's good and what's bad when it comes to judging people in front of them, one-on-one, with others around us, and of course in our minds? How do we navigate that? Where's the thin line? How do we navigate judging people without it being necessarily an act of evil, or at least something that is harmful to ourselves and to our relationship with that person? I think that is an important part of the indicator of whether it can be good or bad, and when we've crossed the line. So there's a lot to hopefully discuss here. But yeah, I'm gonna give Joe the first chance to have a go at it.
Okay. Well, again, Lay, thank you so much for the post. I think this is deeply insightful, and you're on the right track and on all of this. So as I was reading it, I was like, yeah, like this is good stuff. Here's the thing about judging others. We can't help but do it. We will, we make judgments about other people all the time. All the time. And sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not helpful. But one of the key things when you're making any type of judgment ever is grace and understanding. I've learned this through watching Ryan, and I've also learned this through the experience of running into angry homeowners.
Yeah, that'll do it for you.
Because seriously, yeah, absolutely. Because people go through different stuff in their lives. And we all have the emotional roller coaster, and we all have our moments where we're not at our best, and we all have things we do. Like sometimes, like I get stuck behind somebody who's driving super duper slow, and I'm getting all frustrated because they're driving super duper slow. And then you know what happened? Today, I had to drive super duper slow because my car was just about to overheat, and I had to get it to a gas station to buy some coolant to put in my radiator. So, and I didn't want to heat my engine any more than I had to, and I was out of water. I already put all my water in the radiator to try and get to the gas station. I was like, oh my gosh. So I drove slow, and I had people behind me that were probably frustrated, like, why is this idiot driving so slow? Blah, 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 blah. Just like I would be like, right? So now I have a new thing. Like maybe their car's about to overheat. Maybe they're having some kind of car trouble. They can't go any faster. I've had that happen before too, where like something happens in my car and it's got this weird thing called limp mode, where it like downshifts everything and makes you go really slow so you don't tear up the engine by going at higher speeds. Like it's a protective measure, right?
Or when the
So
belt
like,
comes off.
yeah, that happens too. Yeah. Or your timing belt snaps and you're stuck in the
Yeah.
middle of this high traffic thing, like, oh yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff that can happen. But people that are outside the situation, they don't think about that usually. I didn't think about that.
They think you're choosing to drive slow, right?
Exactly. It's like when, people would say, I had people that I do inspections for, like people that work in the office and I go work in the field, right? So like people that work in the office, they'd be like, well, you tell them, like if a homeowner's upset, you can just tell them, well, geez, if you'd pay your bill, I wouldn't have to be here. And I'm like, like you don't know what someone's going on, what someone's got going on in their life. They're not missing their payments because they want to. There's something going on that's causing them to not have the money to pay their payment. And that's a stressful thing that's happening. And now I'm showing up. This adds to the stressful situation. So I need to choose my words wisely, or else I'm liable to get shot or beaten or something, right? Like you got to be careful here, right? So when we make judgments, we always have to throw in some kind of understanding. Find something in our minds, when we say, oh man, that's a weird thing to do, but you can always have a little bit of grace. So you know what? Maybe they're going through a really rough time. It's funny. I always come back to the driving thing because people are either driving too slow or they're driving too fast. Everybody thinks that they are driving the appropriate speed. But if I pass somebody, they think I'm a maniac. And if I'm driving slow in front of them, they think I'm an idiot. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of how it works. But when someone flies by me and they're weaving through traffic and doing all this crazy stuff, I'm like, man, I wonder if they're about to have a baby. They're trying to get to the hospital because I can remember being about to have a baby and driving really fast and probably a little bit crazy. So I'm like, I'm going to be a dad for the first time. I don't know what's going on. You know, it's crazy. My wife's in labor. You know, it's like, whoa. So as we make these judgments about people, grace is key, right? Now, onwards to the next, to the most interesting and heated thing about you that you say in here, judging people in front of themselves alone, that are by themselves, right? Here's one thing that I know about a lot of times. When someone asks me something and they say, give me your honest opinion, they don't want my honest opinion. They want encouragement. Okay. Especially if it's a project they're working on or something like that. They want encouragement. Now, there are very few people, like the people in Black Static and Swerve, all of us, you know, the staff members, we truly want each other's honest opinion. Like, it's like, just tell me, like, because we all realize, hey, we're working with a bunch of talented people here. Everybody's good at what they do. So we're just trying to collectively create the best thing possible to put out there. And so we had to explain this, you know, anytime we bring somebody in, you know, it's like, okay, you gotta understand something. We love you. You wouldn't be here if we didn't love you. Now, understand, it's not like you're gonna how do I put that? You no longer have the right to be offended.
There you go. You do not reserve the right to be offended. There's no longer an option of choice.
Right. Because we're just all trying to work together for something great. Now, there have been so many times when I've brought up an idea and it got shot down. All the time. Happens all the time. Yeah.
All of us have experienced that.
Yep. It just doesn't logically make sense, or something's better, or some, you know, whatever, or, you know, for whatever reason. And it's like, okay, cool. Move on. It's all good. So here's the thing about this. When you're judging somebody one-on-one, though, you have to be the right person to speak that truth, right? Like, if I hear somebody else's judgment about one of my songs, it's probably not going to go very far. Like, if someone is criticizing me about a whole bunch of stuff, and if they're not a musician, especially, it cracks me up. Like, somebody who's not a musician comes in and tells me, you know, all the different things I need to do musically in my song. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I appreciate your opinion. I appreciate that you listened and you took the time to think these things up. But, you know, I would rather take the advice of someone who's a musician, right? So that's one way of saying, you know, we all have a different type of relationship with everybody around us, and sometimes we are the right person to speak a judgment into someone's life. Many times we aren't. And I always have to remember that. You know, when it comes to, you know, helping someone along in their faith journey, I have to be the right person at the right time in order to do that. And many times I'm not going to be the right person at the right time for them. They're not going to want to listen to me for whatever reason. And that's fine. I'll just love them. So in all things, love. In all judgments, love. That's why in your one paragraph where you're saying, if we're talking about judging people in front of others, that's a hard topic ethically. Yes, it is. You because you shouldn't. Making a negative judgment about someone in front of other people is devastating for them. It has to be one-on-one. And a lot of times you have to surround it with a bunch of love and encouragement, you know. But if you do it in front of other people, you know, and then call them out, and there's a bunch of people standing around there, and it's like, ugh, you know, that can totally be extremely hurtful for them. On the other side of that, though, if you build somebody up in front of other people, that's amazing. That's like turbo boost encouragement because you're doing it in front of other people, right? And not only that, but it endears everybody that's in that situation. It endears them to you because they're like, oh my gosh, this person is talking good about this other person and it's in front of us. I wonder what they're saying. They might say something about like that about me sometime. And so people want to be around you. So if you're speaking life, if you're speaking positive things around other people about someone, that's like turbocharged encouragement right there. It's a beautiful, beautiful, amazingly powerful thing. It's weird. Like when you have people around, it adds weight to whatever you're doing. If you encourage, it adds weight in the positive. If you judge in a negative kind of way, it adds weight to the negative. So anytime you have some kind of a correction that needs to be made, one-on-one is always the best, and in person is always the best. If not in person, with voice. Text, I would avoid at all costs. I'm never going to make some kind of criticism with an email. There's too many ways it can be misconstrued. If I have something I need to talk about with somebody, I want to do it with a voice conversation, at least, if not in person. And now we all have video conferencing anyway, so we can do it face to face generally, so it's okay. But yeah, so in your whole entire post, Lay, you are on the right track. You are absolutely on the right track. But yeah, that's a lot of the stuff I have. Ryan, you're next.
Yeah. So you said the question is, what type of judging someone is good? Which one is wrong? I feel like there's a thin line. And yeah, I think Joe really kind of just shaped it up. I think it's true. If you edify someone, if you lift them up, if you judge someone good, if you judge someone in a positive way in front of them, right? It totally lifts them up. Because then you don't just lift that person up, but you lift up the relationship you have with them and the relationship they had with everybody else around them, right? Because here's why we condone so hard, and people don't realize this. People don't realize how big of a sin we consider gossip. Gossip is one of the worst sins imaginable. And it's like, it's not that bad. You're just talking about someone behind their back. Well, here's the problem with it. When you gossip and other people over here, or you they don't even want to hear it and they hear it, or you're the one that's partaking in it, regardless, what you end up doing is you put a fractured line in your relationship with them that becomes evident in every time you meet them. Like, let's say the gossip is like, oh, did you hear that person cheated on their girlfriend? Whether it's true or not, especially even if it is, right? Now, whenever you go to talk to that person, what's in the back of your mind? This is a type of person that cheats on their girlfriend. And I'm talking to them now, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I navigate this conversation? How do I be kind to them? How do I be pleasant, right? It puts negative thoughts in your brain about this person that don't need to be there, right? Because now you're judging that, right? And the judgment is good in that respect. Like, yes, that is a wrong thing to do. It is a bad thing, right? But it's not your deal. That's the main point. And I think that's one of the biggest points that we can kind of cover with this. You can judge someone all you want, right? But if it's not your deal, if it's not for you to solve it, if it's not your sin to bear, then don't involve yourself in it. There are points, right, when you can have a one-on-one conversation with someone and say, hey, I noticed this was going on, and I want to help you. So if I can be of assistance, right, in helping you overcome this problem, because that's I know you want to, and I know like that's a hard thing that you went through, and I'm sure you feel guilty about it. I just want to know, like, let you know I'm here for you. Um, and I get it. It's rough. That's different, right? If you can do that with a person, I think that's beautiful. But if you can't do it with that person, it's not only not your deal, it actually hurts you the more you try to think about it, the more you judge it, the more you look at that person and look down upon them. Because when someone puts that sort of seed in your head and it starts to sprout, and every time you talk to that person, it's kind of growing in the back of your head, your brain is forming distrust for not only this person, but for everybody else, all your other friends, right? You're like, well, if he's done this, then what about this other person? What about them? Did they cheat on their girlfriend? Like, maybe I need to investigate that. Maybe because that's possible. I didn't think about that, but I should investigate that, right? It starts to compile, and no longer is your relationship fractured with that one person. Your relationship with humanity is fractured, right? So that's why gossip is considered one of the like biggest sins, because it forces negative judgment. It passes negative judgment onto people. It belittles them, and it carries through. It carries through to conversations later. It carries through to your next engagements with that person, and so on and so forth. And if your brain is judging people down, what you end up doing is you, instead of allowing your brain to help lift them up, your brain is constantly putting them down, down, down underneath you, which is not humility. It is not any of the virtues. It is not charitable. It is not merciful. It is not graceful. It is very, very unfortunate, right? So even to judge someone in our brains can be bad. It can put, now there's a difference between judging an action, saying that was a poor action, right? That's important to do, right? That was a bad judgment call. That was a bad idea. They should not have done that, right? Good. You've established that. That is important. But then on the other hand, to say, I will never trust that person again. That person is a terrible person. The fact that they've done that means they'll probably do it again. All these type of things, right? That is not healthy, because it is not hopeful. And remember, we've talked about before, hope creates all things. Despair destroys or creates nothing. It creates the abyss of lacking, the lack of all things, right? So even when we hear bad things about people, it's important to remain hopeful, to hope, to love, to cherish, right? I think that's important. In fact, the more we hear bad about somebody, the more we judge badly, like we see that they've done bad things, the more hope, charity, and love that we need, right? The more grace. Joe was talking about grace, to have grace with them, to have patience with them, to have understanding with them. The more of that we need, right? So, I kind of like, there's a difference, right, between judging somebody's actions and judging who they are as a person. And as you said, God will be the ultimate judge, right? Just to share a little story with you. One time I was traveling on the road. I was actually in the mountains. It's pretty cool. I was doing inspections like Joe does now. Doing inspections, trying to get to a house that's like in the mountains, and it takes like an hour drive to get there for my last destination. So I'm driving in the mountains, weaving through the windy paths, and cliffside, drop offs and things like that. It's a beautiful area. And this particular area was extremely interesting. It was like really really dirty, not dirty as in gross, but just like sand everywhere. And then the trees were off in the distance. So this particular area of the mountain didn't have very much trees. It was very more like a desert. It had some cacti and stuff like that, which was interesting. But anyways, I was driving through it and I was thinking about judging people. I was like, we judge people, and then there's that concept of casting judgment on someone where we actually take action, right? When you cast judgment on somebody, it can be um, mental and it can be physical. Like when someone gets judged by a court, when someone gets arrested and put in jail, right? For their actions, right? And that's part of judgment. That is, you make a judgment on the person, on their actions, and you deem them unworthy to be a part of society and you throw them in jail, right? That is a judgment call. And then on the other hand, there's judging someone's soul. And that's, primarily what God does. He judges their entire life and everything. So I remember being on the road and I was thinking about judgment, like kind of going back and forth, like, is it okay for people to arrest people? Because we're taking away their freedoms. And then that causes them to, once you put them in jail, then you're kind of halting their life. They can't go out and experience. They can't, um, you know, is it the right judgment call? Because we're kind of judging them when we do that. And is it wrong to judge? And the ultimate conclusion is, yeah, it's okay to throw them in jail, because even if they're in jail, they're still living their life, right? They're reaping the consequence of their actions, but they still live. They still have a chance to grow. Just because we throw someone in jail doesn't mean that they're condemned. Society can condemn them, but that doesn't mean they're condemned by God. And in fact, it could be right to be condemned by society or even a church or whatever to say, hey, you got to get out for a time. We'll pull you back, but you have to take this time off, because right now, the consequence of your actions, it needs something, right? We need to take something away. We need to put you somewhere because you need to grow. It's tough love, right? But I remember driving and I was kind of debating all this kind of stuff. And at one point, I'm just like, you know what? Why don't, I'm praying while I'm doing this, right? I'm in the car, I'm meditating, I'm thinking, and I'm praying to God. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just ask God, right? Because sometimes we think about these things and we pray things, but then we never like actually just ask God. We ask God for things, but we don't ask his idea. Like, hey, can you explain this to me? Right. And so I was driving along and I was like, why don't I ask God? Seriously. So God, um, what do you think about judgment? And immediately I got a response, and it was kind of, it's hard to explain because it's not wasn't necessarily like a voice or a booming voice or anything like that, right? It was a concrete idea that was said basically in a few words that could amount to sentences long, right? It was a concrete idea, and it was like powerful, and it touched my heart in such a way that I actually started to cry. It was basically the Holy Spirit came and said, if you could experience the feeling that I feel when I have to pass judgment on people, it would be so powerful that you would simply cease to exist. When God God created the whole world for somebody and he loves them, right? And when he has to pass judgment on them and say, hey, you don't want to be with me. I want to be with you so badly, but you don't want to be with me. And so the judgment is, you're not going to be with me. You're going to go to hell. I don't know why you would want to pick that, but that's what you've chosen. And that is so heartbreaking to God. We don't have the emotional capacity as human beings to feel that. But if we could, the depression would be so intense that our atoms would stop moving and we would simply just not fall over and die, but phase out of existence. We would be like, because you can die from shock. You can die literally from being so sad. And this is that intense where you just simply die and fade out of existence because the depression is so intense. And it kind of overcame me a little bit, and it was like a beautiful experience. But I really loved that moment because it's like it really helped to define the way I see God and understand like he cares so much about us. We can't fathom the experience and the emotion that he has for us every time we, you know, and that kind of translates into like when we judge people, who are we to judge? We don't even have the emotional capacity or complete understanding, right? When we judge somebody, we're pretending we're God and we're taking it off as if it's like this little thing. We can get angry, we can get mad at somebody, but all God feels is deep, deep sorrow.
Hmm.
When we get angry at someone and we're like, revenge, right? Or I can't believe they did that. That is so wrong. That is so stupid, right? And all God feels is like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know? And we're all pent up and angry. It's like, that's not right. And so it helps me to judge people the right way when I think about that, because then when I see other people and I have a judgment, I can think about how does God judge this? And God looks at that scenario where that person did something wrong and is incredibly sorrowful, incredibly full of just sadness, not anger, not being mad at the person, but just being not disappointed, but being just legitimately like, man, I wish they didn't have to go through that. I wish they hadn't picked that because that stinks. I don't want them to be in that position. That's so sad. And yet all we get is like angry, right? That's not fair. That's not right. It's wrong. And so that's part of why the Bible says not to judge, is just because we don't do it right. We don't understand. We don't see the full value. We don't see the fullness of truth. And we're not doing it with God's love in mind. We're doing it selfishly a lot of times when we judge people. We're seeing it from our own point of view. But anyways, I'm gonna move it back to Joe. Joe, you have anything you want to follow up with?
No, I don't. That was so eloquent.
Okay.
I don't really have anything. I mean, all I can say is, Lay, I sure do appreciate this post. I really appreciate where you're at. You are on the right track. And, I think if you go back and listen to what Ryan just talked about there, wow. That is a mind expansion right there. Because it puts you in, puts you in the realm of thinking, okay, who am I to ever judge anybody? I mean, I can make judgments on people's actions. I can obviously judge whether or not I should be around a certain person, or whether or not,
Whether you should
I
do
can
something or not, or whatever.
exactly. I can make judgments like that, but to make a judgment about a person, like we said before, we don't have the whole context of their situation. People make decisions because they think it's the right thing for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
I never like. Well, I tell you, there have been times when I've been like, okay, I know this is the wrong thing to do. I'm going to do it anyway, just because I want to.
We're
Right?
stupid like that. We all are.
But deep down, there's part of me that thinks this is going to be a good thing for me to do because it's going to be fun. It's going to be cool, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
even though I know it's not really the right thing to do. But anytime I have a thought, I don't think it's the wrong thought. Do you ever think about that?
Right. Our first thought usually isn't, is my thought wrong?
Yeah. Am I thinking wrong? Like sometimes, it's very rare that we get to that point where we're like, oh, am I thinking wrong? And usually it takes another person pointing something out to think that way, but when we own a thought, we think it's the right thought. And it's like, and everybody's like that. So grace is important. And you just heard a tremendous amount of wisdom from Ryan, who I think, just from watching his example throughout the years that I've known him, he has such an understanding for others and a compassion for others and a heart for others that he is so accepting no matter what. And it's a good thing because I'm a mess of a person, and so I'm lucky to have Ryan.
You're fine.
as a friend.
You're fine. I think a lot of it comes from the Holy Spirit. Honestly, to be very frank. But I appreciate that. But yeah, really, thank you so much for the thoughtful topic. You know, I love talking about things like this because it's not necessarily it is a worry. It's something you've been thinking about and trying to get perspective on, but it's not really like an issue that you need to solve right away. It's more of a mental exercise that can benefit the rest of your life. You know, when you have things like this, when you have thoughts like this, I think it's super important to follow them out to their end because it can change the way that you see people, change the way you interact with yourself or in the environment around you, everything. I think reflection on these type of things is so crucial to a good developed human being, a good developed human brain. Spend time reflecting on these things, come to conclusions, and ask other people's thoughts and opinions. I think that's brilliant. So I thank you so much, Mashaleh, for this topic. I love things like this. So we appreciate you. Great topic. And yeah, I think we're pretty much at the 2-hour mark. So let's shut it down. Thank you guys so much.
I thought when I heard you click, I was like, I thought let's shut it down. Click off.
Click. Yeah, let's shut it down. Let's do another topic. It could be anything I'm clicking on.
Yep, that's right. But that's how it is. That's how it is on Double Cup of Joe. Like when I hear his click, I know he clicked it off.
Oh, yeah. Which is funny because a lot of times it's in the middle of your sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time. He's been doing better lately, but
that's good. Well, we love you guys. Now today's Friday, so there won't be a Double Cup of Joe in the morning.
There will not.
There's Saturday coming up. Hopefully this Saturday we'll be doing some gaming streams over on Twitch. You can go over there and follow us if you're not following already. Make sure you do so. And then also, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, don't worry, there are Double Cup of Joes. Definitely please check those out. Those are fun. I love watching the Joes talk and communicate with everybody. It's awesome. It's a great time in the morning. Tef's usually there. We have a blast.
I've seen a bunch of you guys in there. I've seen a bunch of you guys show up.
Yeah, you guys go in there. And then there's of course we will be back. So if you have a question and you didn't get solved today, or if you're like, I couldn't figure out how to phrase it in time, no problem. We have another one of these coming on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every week. So we will.
And if we run out of topics, we'll come up with something to talk about.
Or they will.
On that. That's right.
Yeah. So, anyways, without holding the rest of your evening up or morning, whatever time it is for you, we will bid you adieu. Thank you all for the wonderful Don't Fret Friday, and we hope to see you again very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Love you. Bye-bye.